Hey, this is Marya Doery, and I'm here with JB Rainsberger, and we're continuing our look at AI, various forms of AI to build us an app. So, in our last session, to remind you, we were using Bolt, which is one of these new tools that you can use to actually supposedly just build you a complete mobile app or other kinds of apps. I don't know exactly what it'll do, but right now it's working on a mobile app that JB would like to have to keep track of his bowling scores. So,
And in fact, I can say I got to use it for practice 4 days ago, and it worked like a charm. The basic UI did what I wanted to do. I even ended up having to use the undo and redo feature once. So all the stuff that I cared about worked well enough to get through one real test in real production conditions. So that was nice.
okay, and so far as you know, your data is still there. It's all looking good in the
I,
app.
I already exported it, so I actually have a copy of it also on my phone's file system. So as long as my phone doesn't disappear on me before I get to copy it over to another file system, we're good.
Okay. Okay, so last we talked, you were using Bolt, and I wonder if you want to open your Bolt and share, do a screen share and just
Yeah,
show
we
it.
can do that.
Yeah. Did you actually do any further work on the app?
I did, and in fact, let me share first. So um, I did that. Part of what I wanted to do was to explore how to actually deploy a version of the app on my phone because obviously I wanted to use it and I succeeded, which is why I was able to use it in a genuine live bowling practice. But before I got there, there were a couple of things that I needed to do to improve the UI. I know that the with this screen size, it's quite small here. But one of the changes, it's really bad on this. Let's see if I can.
Yeah.
I think just the screen size is not showing it justice. Um, I rearranged some of the UI in order to be able to see the entire practice screen at once.
Okay.
So the buttons for entering outcomes are less tall, and you can see here that we have the count of throws, and then a look at the most recent throws so that if I need to undo, I can. And so you can see that the recent throws are showing up from the left in reverse order. And you can
Yes.
see the undo and redo buttons here. So this is the feature that we talked about towards the end of the
Yes.
last session. And I asked Bolt to do that. We can go over what I did and what it did. It
Okay.
took a couple of iterations to get there. But once I had this working, then I learned just enough about Expo to be able to then um, get Expo to build the app for Android, spit out an APK, and then I was able to download the APK and install it on my phone, and it just worked.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's excellent. So then before we talk about something else, I quickly wanted to ask you, since you were using this app during your bowling practice, did you get to test offline mode by any chance?
Uh, Not explicitly because I
Okay.
did have I didn't turn I could have gone into airplane mode, I guess. I didn't.
Right, yeah. But
But
you when you were doing your practice, there
I
was
wasn't reliant on the internet connection. So if I suppose it's possible that by some weird coincidence it only worked because I had an active internet connection the whole time. I'd be shocked. I don't know how that would be, but certainly I didn't do anything. There's no features yet in this app that demand the internet. The export doesn't send it to an online database or any of that kind of stuff. So presumably, using it had nothing to do with the internet.
okay, so that would be something that we'd have like pending just to make sure that it functions okay in offline mode, right?
Yeah, that's true. So I guess let me just put a little reminder here to do some flight mode testing just to make sure that indeed there's no weird way in which this thing is relying on the internet.
Okay. And so then one of the things that we wanted to talk about here was what you're doing for version control. So, you
Yes.
know, in our previous session, we were just kind of like telling the AI or Bolt, like, hey, Bolt, fix this or change this or whatever, and it would just go and redo stuff.
Yeah.
And there was no tracking of any of those code changes.
And I
So,
started to feel the tightness in my chest. That was like, I don't like
yeah,
how far we're going with this, right?
right.
I've spent over 30 years training myself to feel that tension every time I try to do too much work without version control.
Yes. So could you tell us what you're doing about that or what you're
Yeah, so a little bit of old man yelling at clouds. Stackblitz is the technology behind Bolt,
Bolt. Yes.
and Stackblitz is one of these like you can online IDE with really cool and helpful preview features and all that kind of stuff. So people who are working on websites or mobile apps or whatever, they have that environment to work on. That's online, which is especially helpful for people who maybe are working on things like Chromebooks and don't have access to a Unix type or Linux type command line where they can do all kinds of interesting stuff with npm. So, uh, but Stackblitz insists on using GitHub for integrating with version control repositories. I love Git. I don't love Microsoft. And in particular, even if it weren't just that, I can accept that GitHub is kind of an industry standard, whatever. I don't need to yell at the clouds. But when I tried to connect my GitHub account to my Stackblitz account, then I got the ultra scary, we're going to have access to and total control over your entire GitHub account. Is that okay with you? And the short answer is no.
No.
That's not okay with me. And in general, I'm not a fan of that. But
Yeah.
in particular, we're talking about an environment where I'm going to give access, total control to create and delete repositories in my entire GitHub repository, GitHub account, public and private, by the way,
Yeah.
to an LLM, no chance. Sorry. I barely trust humans, well-meaning humans, with that level of access. I'm sure not going to. We've all seen horror stories already of like I was doing, agent augmented coding, and the agent just deleted my entire repository and in working tree and even tried deleting my home directory. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy things. I'm not going to give this environment that level of control. So it would have been nice if I could have it working. Like it would be nice if it could just connect with a Git repository as a normal Git repository user. This is my little reminder to everyone that Git is not GitHub. So there's other ways to work, and so that's what I ended up doing. Was at some point I just kind of got annoyed, and I said, well, let me see what I can do. Now it became a problem to solve. So that's when I then went into the code tab in Bolt, saw my entire working space, the entire project work tree there, hunted around for a feature. There is a download feature, so I could download all the source code or the entire project contents as a zip file. And then I created a Git repository on my local machine. And now that's kind of my workflow. If
Would you
I do
mind?
something, I can show
I
that.
think,
Yeah,
would you
absolutely.
mind showing that so that
Yeah,
people are maybe trying
no
to.
problem. So first things first, the preview window here, it's not always clear what's all going on here. So there's a preview window here. This gets rid of the conversation window. And if you have the conversation window open, then you have to choose whether it's code or preview. If you get rid of the conversation window, then I guess the screen is wide enough that you can see code on the left and preview on the right. So here is my project. All the files, just as any React Native project, I presume, with the requisite .bolt directory for the stuff that Bolt needs to run. This is very familiar to anyone who's used something like any of the online coding environments will typically have the magic folder that allows me to run your project in my platform. And then the rest of this is all the stuff that's needed to build a typical, in this case, React Native Node project. So then from this menu up here, we have export download. You can also open it directly in Stackblitz, which is nice for people who are accustomed to Stackblitz.
Right.
But here
So
I can download,
hamburger
get a zip
menu,
file, and
that's
then
the
do what I
hamburger
want with it.
menu at the top, right? Next to
Yes,
your,
this is the little three dots menu right here.
got it. Yeah, I
So
looked
yeah, I
around
can
for that.
export and
That
download.
was not easy to find.
Yeah, it took a while to notice. Certainly, I looked in every corner like the UI
Yeah.
designers say I'm going to do, and I couldn't find it.
Mm,
But I did find it eventually. And so then when I downloaded that, I could then put that in a Git repository. And now we have the typical problem of, do I really want to shuttle patches back and forth? The good news is we haven't reached the point yet where I want to actually put changes back into the project. I actually did that off stage. I patched a couple of files by hand. It's not important.
yep.
But for now, as long as what I'm effectively doing is taking a snapshot of what's in Bolt or Stackblitz and committing that locally, then it really is as simple as delete everything in my working copy, just keep my .git folder, download the zip file, unzip it in my working directory, and then git diff will show me what the differences are. So that is not maybe the most awesome workflow, but it's certainly good enough for now. And when I want to make changes to my own code, I mean, in principle, I can do the same in reverse. I just have to be, I have to go into Bolt, delete the file, go to my file manager and drag and drop the file into the code view on Bolt. And that's how I'm patching by hand. It's not an awesome workflow, but it will do for now. And at some point, I'll get annoyed by that and I'll give in and use GitHub maybe.
Oh no,
I might end up having to curate a burner GitHub account in order to be
yes,
able to do
exactly.
that.
That's what I would do. That would be the
Yeah.
solution.
It's not really my favorite, but I mean, it's not like I'm building this app because I want it to be part of my de facto CV online, which is apparently how the world works now.
Yeah.